I'm going to hand over to
Pieter
now. Let's hear from the IT
Awesome.
side.
Awesome. So first of all, thank you for having me. I had a few questions and I must say they were very thoroughly thought through questions. So thank you for the people who submitted it.
Yes.
My first question basically asked, which packets would I recommend people as startups to use and what would be the costs involved? Now, we always, with regards to IT packages, have two options. You can go the well-known route where you purchase your software for usage in your business, or you could alternatively look at the free option, which is using open source software, like for example, Linux and OpenOffice or LibreOffice, just to name some of the free alternatives. Now, myself, and I'm not biased because I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, I'm a Microsoft specialist as well. But to me, Microsoft, because they've standardized things compared to how computers used to be in the 1970s, the 1980s, the 1990s, and now in the 2000s, we've seen that they've worked very hard and consistently at making it possible for me to create a file or work with a hardware device and then take it to somebody else's device, and there it will work with no difficulty whatsoever. So on the paid side, if I'm looking at the recommendations for a startup, I would recommend that people use an operating system like Microsoft Windows 10 Pro. So that is the one that is higher in specifications. It gives you a few extra features, which as your company grows, will be able to give you some functionality that a home user, for example, won't have if they use Windows 10 Home. So that's a first consideration people need to take in to the back of their minds when they go and purchase. Now, one could, if cost is an issue, purchase Windows 10 Home. And then as you get more and more business in, you can then look at purchasing an upgrade option on your Home Edition to turn it into the professional or the enterprise edition. And this is something that I would sometimes look at if you're brand new, if you're not going to have 25 employees or more, you're just yourself and maybe 2 or 3 others in a little company, then you could do it that way. Now, Microsoft has this on purchase. And at this point in time, you can get the Windows 10, if I just go to my pricing, because I had to go across to that. And you can get the pricing for Windows for home use. Let me just quickly, sorry, I've got so many little notes here, but I've stapled them on my paper. There we go. Is getting stuck a little bit. But Windows itself, you can get as a home user for a fee of 2,999 Rand. That is the Windows Pro version. And then the home version is a little bit cheaper, coming in at just below 2,000 Rand. So that's one option that I would recommend.
Yes.
Then for Office, people always ask me, Peter, is it better to purchase Microsoft Office, which we used to call it, as a standalone package, or is it better to subscribe to it now? Microsoft changed their whole business model to a subscription-based one where if you purchase Office 365, as the name suggests, you will be locked into a payment plan for a year, so 12-month period. You pay for what you use, and at the end of that, during that 12-month period, should Microsoft update their software, you are always guaranteed that you'll have the latest and the greatest products at no extra cost. Now here, for a business, a startup, for business use, we've got the Microsoft Office, which comes in at 76 Rands a month. If you're doing a lot of travel, this is the mobile option. So all your applications like Outlook and Word and Excel will be available on the cell phone or on a tablet or the laptop if you're very, very mobile. But obviously, you need data access. Should you be in an office environment, which is more us, we would then look at about 179 Rand a month subscription fee, again per month, which will give you 12 months access with your 12-month lock-in, because you have to pay for the 12-month period, and it becomes much more affordable. Now, in addition to the normal packages that we know, we also get access to tools like, for example, Microsoft Teams. If it wasn't for Teams during this lockdown period
Yes.
with
Yes.
Microsoft giving that to us as companies doing VILT or virtual instructor-led training, it would have been very difficult for us to keep our business doors open, because as an instructor with IT, it's important that you can view your students almost like Zoom, but that you can
Yes.
also then have a backup and invite them very easily, and it integrates with your Outlook and your Word and Excel effortlessly. So this is one of the reasons why I recommend people look at the 365 option. It's really, really not that expensive. If they're still wanting to have the physical discs, they could go the route of purchasing it, and the fee for that is just over 5,000 Rand. It's about 5,290 Rand, excluding that. So all these prices are excluding that. The bad thing about that is that Microsoft, every 3 years now, in their release cycle, will bring out a new version. Should the new version come out, you need to then buy a new one. And Microsoft says that they're not going to go that route for much longer. They want people to rather go the subscription route. So that's my quick and short answer to the paid path. But one could look at alternatives like Linux. Linux has different distributions, as we call it, different packages. And the most popular one at the moment is the Ubuntu Linux version 20-04, meaning it's released in 2020 in the 4th month, which is April this year. And that is something you can download for free, install on a laptop or a computer. But with open source, you need then to re-educate yourself as to how Linux works as opposed to Windows. And that's a bit of a thing that many people don't like. I'm now getting more and more used to Linux. But 10 years ago, if you asked me, Peter, would you want Linux or Windows? My answer would have been, without blinking, Windows.
Yes, Windows, absolutely.
Yeah, and you get what you pay for. So I always say to people, take that into consideration. Then the second question that I had was with regards to whether or not a person needs to be technically inclined or to get a consultant with modern day software in order to install it for you and to do the upkeep of those systems. And in the past, that used to be the case, but with things like Google and things like YouTube, and also good support nowadays from the vendors that sell you the software, they often will provide you with free training and a helpline. And in most software packages, if you are stuck, you can simply press, if it's a Windows operating system, so I have to put that out as well as the Microsoft product, you press F1 and it will bring up the help function. And you can then extensively search the database for tips. So that's something that I'm giving as a free tip to everyone. Remember F1. If you're working in Windows and you're stuck, F1 on the desktop, it will bring up help. You can type in what you're looking for. If you're in Word and you're stuck, F1. If you're in Excel and you're stuck, F1. Otherwise, Microsoft.com for their support, or our friend Google or YouTube, a very, very awesome resource nowadays. We didn't have internet in our days, so I'm giving my age away a little bit here. Now, the other question that I had, guys, was with regards to whether or not there are any packages that one can use to do your tax and your accounting services on a computer. And the answer there is also a very definite yes. And again here, one has the option of using well-known packages like, for example, Sage, Pastel, and QuickBooks, just to name 3 of the well-known ones. They do cost sometimes very close to an arm and a leg. Sometimes it's just half an arm, but you also can go you can also go the free route, but SaaS does not always recommend that because they have certain criteria that software has to actually conform to in order for them to say, use this free package. So people need to do a bit of homework there. And the other question that I had was with regards to startups. Would I recommend that people have a web page in the beginning when they get started? Or is that something that they can look at a later stage? Now, my personal opinion here, and this is something that I've seen with businesses, is make sure if you start your company that you go and you register your web page so long, even if you're not going to host it as yet. When you register it, you get the rights to use your company name. So if I, for example, use the 500 as a group, as an example, I maybe want to have 500.com. So I go and I enter something like register.com's website, type in 500.com, and if it is available, and if that's the name that I want to use, I will purchase it at a fee of 189 Rand for a year of usage. After that year period, I need to renew it. So nobody else can use it. It's almost like when we register a company. Then, while you're building your company up, you can start thinking of who you'll use as a host company. The host company will be the people that you store your web page files with. And they then link that with your domain name, which is like, for example, 500.com. And you can then play with your ideas. Now, with social media and that nowadays as well, guys, it's very important that you have a consistent brand presence that pulls across from Facebook to YouTube, which is your YouTube channel, to your web page, to your Instagram, to your, what are some of the other ones? LinkedIn and Telegram, for example. There's more than 100 different platforms that one can go and make your name on. But it's important that you claim it first before other people use it, and that you then use those social channels to refer people to the different areas that you are active in. So that's my sweet and short answer.
Good. Thanks a lot. Well, I must say, it seems though between the two of you, being in one company, I take it, plenty of answers, you know, so if somebody just approached you, they'll get far.